Hey there, my name's Danny Liebrant, and you are listening to The Local Marketeer, where we have on local marketing experts every week. Today, I am with Jonathan Bannister, who is a home service marketing expert. He is the CEO, president, and founder of Cornerstone Digital. Actually, it's Cornerstone Marketing Solutions, which is going to be Top Serve Digital maybe in the next year or so. He's been running it for almost 10 years now. It'll be 10 years at the end of this year. So really impressive stuff. He's been in the industry for a while, and also he's the podcast host of Home Service Hustle. You should see in his background if you're watching the video. And he's also been featured on some pretty big podcasts in the industry. He's been featured on Josh Nelson's show, Seven Figure Agency podcast. He's been featured on Hook Agency, their podcast, and some other big shows as well. So Jonathan's definitely a big figure in the industry. I think most people are familiar with his name. They've seen maybe a podcast of his, or maybe they're even working with him. So excited to have you on the show, Jonathan.
Thank you very much, Danny. I appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Yeah, of course. So let's see, you've been running Cornerstone Marketing Solutions for almost 10 years now. Can you, and I actually know the backstory about this, but for people that don't know, can you tell people what you're doing before you were with the agency?
Yeah, I was not a marketer. I was a police officer. So I went into law enforcement around 2009, and before that I was in sales, right? So I did real estate sales, I did other outside sales and things like that. So I was a host at a casino. So again, was more of a sales position, and I worked in and out of the casino business for a while. I was a blackjack and craps dealer, and then I worked my way up through pit boss and supervisor and things like that. But I like the customer interaction and relationship building, even in the casino industry. So I went into the hosting side of it. And so, yeah, I went into law enforcement because it was always, a childhood dream of mine. Like I wanted to be a federal agent. And so went into law enforcement, and shortly after I got into law enforcement, my wife and I started having babies. So we had babies 2012, 13, 14. And so they came quick and they came fast. And she's like, at that time, law enforcement was not a great place in this country. And, I remember standing outside of my patrol car. At the time, my 12-year-old was, I guess he was 1 or 2, and he's standing holding like the steering wheel of my police car, and she's telling me bye because I was getting ready to go into work. And and she's like, look, another cop today was shot and killed in Louisiana. Like, what are you gonna do, right? Like, she's sitting there pregnant, and then one's holding the steering wheel, and she said, you don't make enough money at all to have these little boys not have a dad, right? And so I was like, well, she's got a pretty strong point there. And what I did know is, once I got into law enforcement, I knew it was definitely not going to be my forever job. And so I was enjoying it, and I enjoyed working the streets, and I enjoyed, doing interdiction and working the drugs and things like that. But I was like, when I looked at my supervisors, my sergeants and my lieutenants and the chief and assistant chief, they were like some miserable people. And so I definitely didn't want to have that office job, and like there was no fun at all playing the whole politics thing. And the things happen, and I think in your life, I tell people that things happen that will force you to make some decisions. Either you get the option to make it, sometimes you don't, sometimes it's a true force, but sometimes you're led down a path, and you get to decide at this moment, whatever direction you go is going to make a huge impact on your life. And so I could have kept fighting and saying like, no, I'm going to stay in law enforcement, I'm going to do something else. But I got into a situation where politics came into play, and I got a bad taste in my mouth, and I was like, you know what, like this is bullshit, and then so I happened to make a phone call. I tell people, I remember the phone call. I remember where I was standing. And so I'm at a doctor's office, and it had 2 doors. You open one door, and you're in between 2 doors before you go into the one to the doctor's office. And it was cold out, and that's why I got in between those 2 doors. And I called a buddy of mine, and I said, hey, are you working on anything right now? Because he was a very, very creative person. He had made 2 different movies to graduate college. One made it to the Sundance Film Festival. It was real creepy and like real horror. Like it was like, I'm like, dude, what, you got a sick mind to even come up with this. Another one was he made a Hurricane Katrina documentary that sold hundreds of thousands of copies. And so I called him and I said, are you working on anything? He goes, yeah, matter of fact, I was getting ready to call you because I'm making mobile apps and I want to get these to business owners because like this new technology, this is 2014 or beginning of 2015. And he was like, yeah, you know, this technology, if you can get people to download the app, you can send them push notifications and tell them whatever you want, or you can create these geofences. And if they come inside the geofence, they got the app, then you can pop something up. So, man, you know, coming from a sales background, I was like, all right, this is super cool. So I'm a golfer. I've been a golfer my whole life. And I said, I can go sell these to every golf course. And the first thing I thought was, well, everybody wants to warm up and hit balls at the driving range before they play, but that's already a fixed cost. Like the golf course has already bought the balls. They don't care about that. You know, it may be an extra little stream of revenue, but they'll give those balls away. They don't care. So I was like, well, you put a plaque on the counter here and you put a QR code and you tell people you can have a free bucket of balls if you download our app. And what we're going to do is that, especially where I'm originally from, which is Biloxi, Mississippi, we're down on the Gulf Coast. And because of the humidity levels, if it didn't, you know, it had to almost say it was 100% chance of rain for you to really be able to believe it. Because some days it would say 10% chance of rain and it's going to rain. Because it gets so hot and it gets so humid, eventually it just rains. Maybe it's only 30 minutes, but it's going to pour. And so I said, but what you could do is you have no control if it says it's 50% chance of rain, but it ends up not raining at all, because I'm telling you, it's just the way the humidity is. And I said, but what you could do is if you had 300 people at your golf course that had the app downloaded and it decides to not rain. And what happens is that's how people decide if they're going to play golf is they look at the weather channel. They look at the app and go, oh, on Tuesday I could play. I'm going to take off work or whatever, and I'm going to go play golf. So I said, but if a bunch of people don't book and schedule because the weather looks bad, but it ends up cooperating, your tee books are empty. You have no way to get people out there on the fly. Most golf courses just say, well, it was going to be a rain day and that's why we weren't busy. But I'm like, no, send out a push notification and say, hey, all you can play today for $50. Right. I'm like, you know, you make your extra $1,000 in the cash register, like it could add up quickly, especially in an area like that where there's a lot of rain. So I started selling them, and I started selling them quick. And then the way the story goes is I went to people that I played poker with. I'm also a big poker player. So I went to go see these business owners I played poker with and restaurant owners. One guy owned a trucking business, sold 18-wheelers and stuff. So I went to him, and that guy goes, yeah, I'll buy an app, Jonathan. And then when I was getting ready to leave, he goes, look, check out my website. And he pulled out his phone and he goes, my website, it's hard to fit on my phone. You got to spread your fingers to see it. And he goes, can you help me fix that? And I said, sure. Yeah, we can help you fix that. I had no clue what we were going to do or what it was called. And we had to reach out to web developer and get it taken care of. Right. And then a couple weeks later, I go to this buddy of mine. His name was Scott. He owned this really famous seafood restaurant down there. And I go to the restaurant and I see him. He buys an app, and I'm getting ready to leave. He goes, hey, can you also help me out with my SEO? My SEO is horrible. And I was like, sure, Scott. And then I go to my car outside the parking lot of this restaurant and I Google what is SEO because I had no clue what it was. So that's how I got started in marketing, was just a situation happened where I had a choice, because I wasn't ready to leave law enforcement then. Now I had my wife in one ear, but it was like, you know, at that time I'm like 28 years old, 29, you know, I was like 10 foot tall and bulletproof. Nobody's going to hurt me. Don't worry about it, babe. I'll kill them all, the bad guys. Right. And so I knew it wasn't my forever job, but I was not ready. But a situation happened that I thought was so unfair and this horrible situation, and I'm going to fight it. And it ended up being like it happened for a reason. And now I realize that, and it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. But because I was open to exploring something different, like they just kind of say the rest is history. So, and that's kind of what started everything. And I've been a sponge for the last 9.5 years. I've learned everything that I could. And, there's been definite ups and downs. I think anybody who's been in business for 9.5 years will tell you, like, the statistics are not in your favor, especially in the first couple years. And so, yeah, I mean, it's been a whirlwind of good and bad, and a lot of challenges, but I think it's been the most fun and rewarding thing as well. And my wife will tell anyone I am a horrible employee, and so I now
Yeah.
looking back at everything I've done in the past is I am not designed and cut out to work for somebody. I'm
Yeah.
too opinionated. It's easy. I can always see when I work for people, it was like my mind worked in a way of like, I wanted to ask, but why? Because I saw things that were wrong. But why would you do it that way? And it wasn't that I was trying to get a shortcut out. It was just like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And in order to get back to the customer, because in any business, like, the customers are the ones who generate the revenue that actually help you continue to have a business. But I'll be like, but if I put myself in the customer's shoes, and that's how I always run my business today. And for my clients, I always go, well, let me be the consumer of the air conditioning company or the plumber company or the roofing company, because I go, would I like that, or would that rub me wrong, or would that be a good experience for me? So when I work for somewhere, I would be like, well, why do it that way? Why not do it this way? And it was like, sit down and shut up. You're just an employee to go do this, what you're told, And so now I look back and I realize it was just, corporate America wasn't the place for me, and I needed to be more creative. And that's, I'm a big visionary person, and I realize that now, so.
Wow. Okay. That is such an interesting come up story. I didn't, I knew some of that, like you were a police officer and stuff, but I didn't know the full scope of things. So yeah,
Yep.
that's really interesting. Two things that particularly resonated with me out of that is biting off more than you can chew, where like it seemed like you were just taking every opportunity that came to you. And I think that's something really important that entrepreneurs kind of need to digest, is that starting out, you're going to have very little opportunity. So every single one that comes your way of like, this guy's asking you to do a website, you barely even have touched a website. And the guy's asking about SEO. I found that so funny. You didn't even know what SEO was, and you were still there taking the opportunity. So I really respect that. And then the other side of things, which is everything happens for a reason. I'm a total believer in that as well. I think everything will work out the way it's meant to be, as long as you're putting your right foot forward, you're doing everything that you can do, being the best version of yourself. So yeah. I think that's an awesome come up story. I think that's awesome. So now tell me about getting into the agency side of things. When did it actually become an agency?
Yeah. So the buddy of mine and I, his name's Justin, who, I'll tell you the full circle there, because he now works for me full time. So 2015, it's him and I. We probably got it up to about, I want to say it was somewhere like between 18 and 20 something thousand MRR. And I think the apps we were doing were like, we were selling them for like $1,500 or $2,000 for the app, and then $250 or $500 like monthly maintenance or something on the apps. And then we had some, like, we started getting into the SEO and a couple of things for, but I had like massage therapy places, and I had storage space people, and I had like golf courses. I had all these different smorgasbord of businesses. And
wait, so just real quick, you're building custom apps for all of them? What are you doing for them?
Well, no. So yeah, back in 2015, we were on, it was like a app rebuilder platform, right? I mean, okay. But yes, it was a custom app for their particular business. And it was in, we would get it put in the app store. And then from there, we could do push notifications or geofencing and different things like that. Right.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So that's what we started out doing, until people said, hey, can you help me with my website? Can you do SEO for us? So then we, by this point, let's say 6 or 8 months go by, we've got $20,000 in MRR, things going well. And I kind of push my buddy, who he's my partner, right? Like he's my childhood friend. We're grew up together. And but see, here's what would happen was I would wake up some days and there would be a message waiting on me on Trello or whatever we used at the time. And it was like, today, I want you to learn how to build a homepage of a website, because he was the brains behind the technical side of it. And all I did was go and sell and close deals. And he had a hard time seeing the value in the sales part. And so he wanted me to learn how to, and because to me, when things didn't make sense to me, even in school, and the teacher didn't care about explaining why this needed to be done or why you needed to know this, my brain would shut off from it. And so and I'll give you a scenario. In 11th grade, I failed English the first time. Her name was Miss Lishman, and everyone loved her. She was just, supposedly this phenomenal teacher, but the way she taught it was her way or no way. And she knew it all. And she was known as this amazing teacher. Well, it didn't work well with me, and I struggled, and I think I failed with like a 69. Well, then the next semester I took it again from her name is Miss Geringer, and she was a much softer, kinder, and was willing to teach me at a different pace, a different style. The questions that I had, her answers it was the whole difference there, right? And so I made like a B+, literally 6 months from one another, the same exact information and testing and everything. So later on in life, I've now learned that, between visual learning and audible learning, and I think it's the most cruel, unfair thing that our education system teaches one way, because I know people that, like, if you're an audible learner and you're being taught as a, one style and it's visual, like you're not retaining any of that information, right? So it's probably a lot of people walking around failing in school and you're an idiot. And really that's the furthest thing from it, is that the teaching style does not, match up with where they are. So I keep getting these messages from the buddy of mine, and I'm like, yeah, well, I'm not going to do that. And so my brain said, no, I don't want to learn. I don't want. And so unfortunately, to this day, because he did that to me, I have no clue how to build a website, right? I have no clue. I have no clue how to even start with the whole, let's create something, whatever it says on the WordPress landing page, right? I don't know how to even get there. All right, Danny, no clue. 9.5 years in, but let me tell you, I know what the website should look like. I know how it should convert. I know what we need to get out of it. And I definitely know how to sell it to someone. And I know how to educate them on it. I don't know how to build it. I'm not a web developer. I never want to be a web developer. And I know that the site needs to bring people to it. They need to stay on it. It needs to convert, those are the things. So because of that, when I pushed him on, let's get our partnership locked in, he was like, well, he was trying to wiggle out of it. And I get it. Look, we were young, dumb, stupid. It is what it is. So I left that relationship so I guess him and I did this in 2014. So in 2015, I was solo. And I went out solo. Him and I still remained friends. And he would come over to my new office. And I just then became obsessed over finding the best people that could do the work, right? The best web developer. I needed the best ads person. And so that's how things really kicked off in 2015, is because I was forced to get there. I realized I didn't want to sell apps on this big upfront cost that we were getting a couple $1,000s for, but I wanted the reoccurring, right? I wanted that. I wanted a model that says, let's work on something together and let's create a relationship where we're doing a bunch of services for you that we show the value. And so that's what we did at first for several years, until we got to a place where I realized the next step to things is really providing your value by becoming a true partner with them and understanding what their goals are. And formulating a plan around those goals and holding them accountable and holding yourself accountable and breaking that down monthly. If you're in a business that's seasonal, build it around the seasonal side of it, because at the end of the day, the clients have a goal. They want to hit either a certain amount of trucks on the road or a certain amount of revenue or a certain amount of new team members, whatever it is. But we want to reverse engineer everything we want to do moving forward off of what that goal is. And we won't work with anyone that doesn't have that goal in mind and is willing to map it out, because we want to make sure that if we fail, it's documented on here's what we started to formulate the plan on, and here's the progression, and we failed you here. Like, I just want to be able to pinpoint it, but it won't be because we were just doing stuff and checking off boxes and the client saw the next shiny object and said, I'm going to leave and go to this other marketing company. Like, we just don't go down that road anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So it's interesting you say that, because I just had Tim Brown on of Hook Agency, and he's kind of relating to the same thing, which I think most agencies actually don't talk about at all and likely don't implement at all, is that process of becoming more like a partner than just, like an outside agency, being super involved and also getting those goals really clear. So I asked him this, and I'll ask you, Ed, as well, because I'm curious if you guys have the same thing of what does your goal setting process look like with your clients, and what kind of goals are you setting? What KPIs are you trying to hit? Tell me all about it.
Yeah. So for our clients, revenue is obviously the most important thing. So what we do is we formulate the plan based off of their numbers. So for instance, if I'll use HVAC as an example, there's two different types of leads and revenue sources that come from an air conditioned business. And that is from their service department, which is their repair department, and their replacement or install department. So most leads come from their service department, because no one wakes up one day and says, you know what, honey, I think today I want to get a new air conditioning system. It just doesn't work that way. It's not a new car. It's not something cool, right? No pun intended. It's supposed to keep you cool like when it's hot. But the way it typically works is I was telling you before we got started that it looks like Chicago outside of my house in Dallas right now. There's snow all over the ground. Well, the way it happens is someone wakes up today, it's 30 degrees outside, and their home is freezing, and they've got kids inside, and they're like, shit, we've got to get this fixed. Our furnace isn't working. So they call and they go, hey, I need someone to come out here and fix my furnace. They didn't ever think, they were hoping, whether they knew how old the furnace was or not, they're not going like, I don't want a new furnace. I want a Band-Aid put on it. I want you out of my house. I want it to be, $20 and I want you to leave. Well, that's not the reality of it. And so that then becomes the air conditioning company's responsibility to go in and be transparent, be professional, be honest. And when you're honest and you give options, it creates a really good formula for your business. So you go in and you go, hey, listen, we can get this fixed today. All right. Your system is 10 years old. And so to fix it today, it's going to cost $800. Here's the parts we're going to need to fix. Now, I will tell you, with you having a system that's already 8 years old, I could leave here tomorrow and something else may fail on it, right? I mean, like, it's just unfortunately the place that you're in. So I have gone ahead and given you a couple options for replacement as well. And so, like, we've got financing specials and offers here where you can actually get in a new system today for like as little as $79 a month, right? And you're going to have like a lower power bill and, better efficiency on your, blah, blah, blah. You tell them all the bells and whistles. That's typically how a new air conditioning system gets replaced. So for us, we want to look at everything as those two categories when we're planning out with our clients. What is your average service bill, your service ticket, and what is your average replacement ticket? So when I've got a client that has an average install of, say, $11,000, and then I've got another client that their average install is $22,000 or $23,000. But if both clients say, my growth goal for this year is I want to grow by $1 million. But if they both tell me that, the road to get there is completely different.
Yeah.
When it's 100% higher, double the amount of install, right? And so where 90% or more of the revenue is going to come from replacement, because it's such a high ticket, I need to be able to map that out and show them. All right. But at the same time, we're in a weather driven business, a seasonal business. So I don't need to go, okay, you want to do 5 million this year, 5 million divided by 12. Here's what we need to hit each month. Well, no, that's not the case at all, because May, June, July, and August, those 4 months for a lot of our clients make up 80% of the revenue. All right. So now we need to focus on those 4 months. How much revenue can we, or should we, or do we want to do? But then the flip side of that is capacity. What do you have the capacity to be able to do? Because a lot of clients go, yep, those numbers look good, what you mapped out there. And it's like, okay, well, now here's second part of it. You're wanting to do over $1 million in each of these months. It's doable. We can spend the money. The demand's going to be there. Great. But now I go, since the majority of the business comes from service and then gets flipped into the replacement side, how many service calls can your guys do each day? Oh, during the summer, 5 or 6 a day. Okay, great. Let's just say 6. All right, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. How many technicians do you have? Oh, we've got 4. And then I start doing the math and I'm going, but you need 400 service calls a month in these 4 months. You don't have the staff. Now I say, you don't. Now we're in January, so you don't need it right now, but you are going to need it for May. But you cannot just hire someone at the end of April or 1st of May and they're going to be ready to jump in a truck and go, right? Do you agree? And they go, oh yeah, I agree. Okay. So do you have a plan in place to start hiring and recruiting someone like March to get ready? And so for me, Danny, it's how serious are they with hitting their goals? And is it something that they want to do, they need to do, or they have to do? And I will tell you that we got to this place by taking their numbers, because they have to put what their average install replacement, their overhead expenses, their job cost percentage. Sometimes I make them even prove it and verify. Like we go through each last year numbers and I want to know how many service calls were ran, how many installs did you do? Because I want to kind of see what that flipped ratio percentage is to see, can we use last year's historical data and get close to where we need to be on this upcoming year? And I will tell you that we got to this place because this was 2018, I think. 2018, I lost this client. And I travel and I'll speak at different manufacturers events for Carrier and York. And so here I am with my presentation decks, and I've got either main stage or these breakout sessions. And I had this one client of mine was on a lot of my presentation decks. And I get a phone call one day that, hey, we lost that client. And I was like, what do you mean we lost that client? Like, we have the best results for them, the best SEO, the best paid ads. I'm like, what do you mean we lost them? And I'm telling you, this is again, like the law enforcement story where I was left with going left or right, and my life was going to be greatly impacted one way or the other. This is another one of those incidents I can look back now and know this was a pivotal moment because I had never, up to this day, I had never called a client and said, why did you leave? And so I called this guy, and it was mainly, I want to say, I know it was something more powerful, what drove me in my gut to want to call. I want to say, well, it was because I had him on all my presentation stuff and I was mad that I was going to have to change it out. I mean, that's a funny story that I can say, but realistically, I think back and I go like, why did I call this guy? I wasn't like close friends with him or anything, but there was something that I didn't understand. Like your results are great. And I think what it is it's one of those things like, holy shit, if he's willing to leave, but great results, why won't these that don't have the same results leave or stay or not go, So it was probably a fear. There was probably a combination of a lot of things. So I called this guy up and I said, hey, I have a question. If you got a second, like, I just need to understand like why you're leaving, because I'm so proud of the results with you. I got them all over our stuff, and I'm about to go to Atlantic City next week, and I'm going to talk all about our things, but you're on it and I'm going to have to change all that. So I just don't get it. And he goes, I'm happy to explain. And if you've got a second, I'll lay it all out for you. And I said, I'm all ears. And he goes, okay. He goes, we've been with you a little over 2 years. Both of those years, our business has increased. And I'm sitting there going like, man, am I hearing this the right way? Okay. And he goes, but let me explain further. Year one, we were forecasted to grow internally. We forecasted to grow about 1.2 million and we only grew 800,000. Year two, we forecasted to grow 1.8. We grew 1.1 or 1.2. And I said, okay. And he said, the problem with that is we forecasted and we couldn't just, when we needed when we needed the extra staff, we could just go and get them in. He said, so we had to hire, we had to train, we had to get trucks, we had to get equipment and prepare for the growth. And the growth didn't happen the way we needed to. So then we had to lay people off. He goes, does that make sense? And at first, a part of me got defensive. And I said, well, sir, you're the one who makes the decisions on ad spend. You were telling us how much to spend. We were getting great results, but we were only spending what you told us to spend. And he goes, I understand that. However, I looked at you to be the expert and we didn't hit our goal. And dude, I got off of that call, man. And it was like, I thought about it. I got, there's probably a side of me that was like, well, screw him. Like, this is stupid because we got the great result. And man, the more I thought about it, it was like light bulbs went off. And I said, no, we have to start being a consultant. And we need to be a consultant first. And we need to find out deep what their problem is, what their challenges are, and where they're trying to get to. Where are they currently at now? Where have they been last year, a couple years before, whatever? What is their history? Where are they trying to get to? But until we can understand where they've been and where they're coming from, they're never going to get to where they're trying to get to. So now, dude, it's so much about education and diving into their numbers and asking them questions like, listen, do you know what your cost per acquisition is on average? Most people can't tell me that. They'll tell me some weird number that the marketing company told them. I said, no, not a cost per lead, not how many phone calls did you get divided by how much money you spent. What is your true cost per acquisition? And most can't tell me that number. And I go, okay, listen, there's a tool that we use called Searchlight. But more importantly, the founders of Searchlight, his name's John Torrey. John Torrey puts out an incredible email every couple of weeks, pulling data from thousands of samples of private equity groups and other marketing companies that have their clients in. So he's getting a blended number in the HVAC and plumbing space of how much the cost per acquisition is on PPC, SEO, and LSA. On LSA, let's just call in 2024, on average, the cost per acquisition on LSA was somewhere around 350 to 380. Now, the cost per unique lead average was around 56 to 60 something dollars. Right? Because you can't look at how many leads you got. You got to look at how many of those leads did it take to actually make a transactional agreement take place where money exchanged hands. And on PPC, it's well over 400 on average throughout the years. It almost got as high as 5, and it's around 420 right now, 426 or something. My clients don't know that information because I simply go, listen, how much are you spending right now on PPC? You're current, $3,000. Okay. I'm not saying your marketing company's good, bad, or ugly, but what I can tell you is you have no clue how far that 3,000 is going to reach, or even should. Just doing pretty decent PPC work, you're not going to get anywhere near what you think you're going to get. And this is where cost per lead, cost per acquisition, and lifetime value are so important to educate people on. Because the first thing you got to look at is, do I have the budget to even be able to afford how much new business I want for this particular month? Now, you got to look and go, where can I get that business from, right? Whatever industry you're in. It's like, social media ads work for some types of businesses, some they don't. We love social media because we're big on video. So at the very least, I'm going to go and win the impression game with our clients and get more impressions on as many platforms as I can. So it's at least going to strengthen the brand, but also at the bottom of the funnel, once we educate people and we build trust and credibility with testimonial videos and their brand story video. If we want to put an offer in front of them, great. But we're not going to waste people's money, because at the very least, they're going to get brand recognition from their local market. So it should make everything else convert better anyways. But you have to ask the question, if it's going to take $450 on PPC, or if it's going to cost $350 or $380 or whatever on LSA, can you afford that? Even if you could get enough leads on LSA, could you afford, if you need, based off of your numbers, right? You know, here's what your service call is here. Based off of your numbers, you need 100 of those to hit the revenue goal that you want to this month. If you got them all from, let's say, LSA, can you pay $300 for every single one of those new customers? Yes or no? Do you have the money, or are you willing to spend it? That needs to be question one. The next question then becomes, okay, if you don't want to always be paying for every new acquisition, every new customer that you're going to bring on, where are you going to get them from? Right? You can go knock on doors. You can hand out, folders. You can build relationships at your local baseball team for your kids. Like, there's other places you can go to. Obviously, I think SEO and Google Maps is super important, because that's going to lower your ad spend, and that's always going to be your strongest lead conversion opportunities. So it needs to be part of the pie for sure. But then it becomes, like, there's good SEO companies and bad ones. I mean, I just think, I don't want to believe that there's just a lot of malicious people that are trying to steal people's money. I know there are, but I think a lot of times it's just, they don't know what they don't know. I mean, I've never had a hard time going to sleep at night over the last 9.5 years I've been in business, because I've always been very ethical with our clients. But I'm going to tell you, looking back now where we are, there's times that we were taking people's money and we had no clue how to get the results that we needed to for them. We were doing the same thing that we thought was right, but in certain markets and in certain situations, that same thing's never going to work. The competition's too strong, and there's no chance we're going to rank them for AC repair in Dallas or Miami or Los Angeles with the strategy that we were doing for the same client in the middle of nowhere, Arkansas. It just wasn't going to work. But we didn't know any different. We didn't know that really we needed to do this much more robust thing that was going to take a lot more time and resources. So there's no way I can charge you $3,000 a month like I'm doing these other people. Like, I just, to do it the right way. So I think some people just don't know how to do it the right way. And so they're just willing to bring the person on. But really what it does is, it doesn't work. It's never going to work. And then the client feels like they got screwed by another marketing agency. And so I have spent the last couple years educating people, and I've brought on more clients that way. Right? I mean, my sales guys sometimes go like, dude, like, how do you close at such a high rate? And it's like, well, because one, someone refers them to me to help them, and I will spend literally 4 hours on a call with them, and they leave there. I've had, you don't know how many times people have left a call with me and they go, I have never been on a call 4 hours like that. And they said, I could have probably spent 4 more hours with you. And so, like, they're willing, because they're willing to learn, and I'm just want to teach them. And it's like, whether you want to work with us or not, I don't want you to ever experience that again from the next company. But I will tell you, and I'm shooting some content on this now, and I'm calling out the marketing companies, but I'm also calling out the business owners. It's both people's fault and responsibility. A plan has to be put in place that both parties agree to. And so if you want to get to, $500,000 in revenue in the month of February, and there's a reason why you have to do that, then everybody should reverse engineer whatever business you're in. If it's roofing, it's pest control, whatever, how many of that particular services that you offer do you need to achieve that month to hit that goal? Is it even possible? If you could wave a magic wand tomorrow and bring the leads in, do you have the amount of crew that could actually go and do it? Check all those boxes, because then I feel like the marketing company should be able to put a plan together. Okay, we're going to do SEO, we're going to do Facebook ads and YouTube ads or TikTok or Google, whatever you're going to do. But we need to spend, we think, this amount of money to achieve that. And now it becomes the responsibility of the owner to say, yes, I agree to that number. I'm willing to spend that, because here's what we're trying to achieve this month. And I think when everybody can align and get to that place of unity, then you should start seeing some magic happen. I think the problem is I'm putting some content together now. It basically says, because of my casino background, there's a slide that I say, do you know why casinos use chips instead of allowing you to play with cash? And the reason is because if you were playing with cash, people don't spend as much money.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't get as wild and stupid with it. Like it's those
Mm-hmm.
chips are the same size,
Yeah.
different color. It's not a big deal. And I think it's the same thing with marketing companies, that they don't really want to educate on it's a $400 acquisition cost reality. So if you need to hit that amount, you need to spend 400 times this number. And they're scared, I feel, that the company would go, I've never spent that kind of money in my life. And I want to go, when I have said it, well, when's the last time you've made this amount of revenue you said you want to make? Well, we haven't yet. Okay, well, there's your
Yeah.
answer. Maybe you haven't because you're not spending enough money. And maybe it's because no one's told you. Like maybe I think a lot of business, especially in HVAC and plumbing, you can get 0 to 2 million with just word of mouth, friends and family, referrals. It's not super hard, especially when you're selling a $15,000, $20,000 air conditioning system. You don't have to do a lot to get to $1 million, $2 million. When you start, and so a lot of times it's the companies that they're trying to go from 2 to 5. They have no clue what it's going to take to hit that, because it's not like that 2, the original 2 is just going to keep walking back in the door. So you got to keep the 2. And then how do I go acquire 3 million in new business? It's not the easiest thing to do, and it's going to cost money. And so what I will also tell you is we're focused so heavy right now on branding because just like I learned from that client that left, that planning is super important in getting aligned with where the client's goals are and where you're trying to get to. That was one thing I learned. The next thing I learned is that no matter how great the results are, it still may not work the way that it needs to or the client wants it to, because they have a weak brand. And so, an example I like to give people is I'll go, all right, look, let's pull up AC repair near me. And let's assume, and I'll find a company that comes up in LSA and Google Maps, and maybe they have a PPC ad. And I'm going to go, all right, listen, let's say this is you. Let's say this is you, and you come up in 3 spots. There's 4 pieces of real estate on a Google search page, right? You have LSA, you have PPC, you have Google Maps, and SEO. Let's say you come up in 3. I don't care if you come up in all 4 of them. Today, there's around 18 options on one Google search page. So if you have 4 of them, there's still over 14 other options to choose from. What I know is because I've seen people where they're coming up in all 4 spots and still not getting enough calls and leads as we had projected to. And the reason why is because when the brand is not rememberable and recognizable, you're going to get clicked on by the company that is. And so I had the hardest time, Danny, for up until the last couple years, spending time with Ryan Shute is somebody that your listeners out there, go look up this guy. He's a branding genius. He's one of the owners of Wizard of Ads. And several of my clients started using Wizard of Ads. And my clients called me up one day, who I'd been working with for a few years and close relationship. And they're like, okay, hey, we're going to start working with Wizard of Ads. I'd love for you to join a call with them and this and that. Okay, sure. I got a little defensive, like they're going to try to steal my client or what's going on here. And then my client tells me, yeah, we're going to do like $25,000 or $30,000 a month in radio. And I'm like, what? Have you lost your mind? I'm like, absolutely nuts. I'm going, you give me the 30,000 and we'll be able to bring in crazy amount of leads and stuff. Like my mind went to, why would you spend that kind of money on something you can't verify and point a finger and say this resulted in this? I'm like, you go spend 15,000 on YouTube or Meta. I can show you how many calls you got, and we can go and tell how many leads and revenue came from it. And it was so crazy for me to understand. And I started spending more time with the guy, Ryan Shute. And he educated me on, you have the brain, the front part of our brain is short-term memory, and it is in and out, the thought process, the memories that we hold on to. And so that's what happens when we see an offer, a really good offer. It hits the front part of the brain and we go, well, that's a great deal. But if we don't need that product or service right then and there, and we don't decide to buy, we will almost never will we remember what it was, or that company again. When the time does come when we need it, it wasn't strong enough in our brain. It was just, oh man, I remember that. It was a great price one time. I have no clue who it was or whatever. Right. And so it's when you can move the memory and the thought process of your company to the rear part of the brain, that's when the magic happens. And so I got to see it firsthand. So one of my clients, called All Heart Heating and Cooling, out of Lancaster, California, they've been using Wizard of Ads now for, I don't know, over 2 years. And we do all the video content. Wizard of Ads comes up with all the radio scripts and the radio stuff. And then what we do is we try to match up what they do on the radio. We shoot video content, the same thing. And we want to try to hit the same people that's heard it on the radio. They're seeing it on social. They came up with this. So Dan Antonelli came up with the branding of All Heart, but Wizard of Ads came up with the next step of the brand, which was creating something that could be rememberable. And so what it is there's now, like, the jingle is All Heart Heating and Cooling. Comfort is only a heartbeat away. And then you hear boom, boom. You hear this heartbeat.
Yeah.
Everything that plays, radio, TV, wherever, you hear that heartbeat every time. And we're out there about a year ago. We're out in California. My video crew's out there. We're shooting video content. And we pull up to this old train depot. It's about an hour away from his office. And it's this old train depot, but we wanted to get B-roll footage of his trucks driving past the old trains. And we pull into the train depot, and there's these old men in these rocking chairs, like 3 old men in these rocking chairs. We pull in. I'm with the owner. We pull in the parking lot. We get out of the truck. Him and I are both walking from the back of the truck. This old man's probably 85 years old, starts singing that song.
No.
And I look at the owner, and he goes, see, this shit works. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I'm going to tell you, that old man has never used All Heart before, right? And that's what you want. And that's what people need to know, is that there's a couple ways. You have on-demand business. We want that business. That is people that have a problem. In your case, someone wakes up, the wife saw a freaking roach run by, and they're like, bull, this is not going to happen. You better call the pest control company, right? So that is someone that's going to go to Google and say, I need a pest control company. In my world, it's, my home's freezing today. I need someone to come fix my furnace. They go to Google. They need someone to come out and fix it. All right. Those are on demand. You need to make sure you come up where people go when there's demand. But you can also create your own demand, right? And so then you're getting in front of them with some targeted ads and some different offers, like a tankless water heater, talking about, you run out of hot water. How about $500 off a tankless water heater? Hoping that you can get in front of someone that their water heater didn't go out. You're trying to get in front of maybe a pain point and giving them an offer for a change out. Then what you have is when you're working on your brand, when the demand happens, right? So it's a problem. Someone wakes up and their home's cold today. They need a company. You have people that go to Google because they don't know who they want or need. They're just going to do their searching, right? Now what I tell your people, you're in the lottery. You're in the lottery for the 18 options that come up on page 1. Good luck. You have four pieces of real estate. In my opinion, you better be on all 4 of them, but that's not enough. And I know it's not enough. The second level of that are the people that you've strengthened your brand a little bit. There is a brand recognition. And so, it's not strong enough that they know who you are, but if they saw it, they would know. So then when you have those 4 pieces of real estate you come up on, and they go, oh, All Heart, like that's the company. I want to go with All Heart, right? That's where your brand's getting to that place. And the third one is when your brand is in the back of their brain. Their home is leaking water because their water heater flooded. and then they're going to go, the song is going to start playing, or the heartbeat, and they're going to go all heart. They Google all heart. So your direct search goes up and up because your brand is so strong. They're only looking for you, even though they've never used you before. Right. That's the
Wow.
place
Yeah.
that every business needs to get to. But it takes time. It takes money. It takes dedication. And most people aren't willing to do it, because I tell people they have been on, I call it the Google heroin, for so long
Yeah.
that they need leads. And they go, man, like, give me the leads, give me the leads. And it's like, dude, get the needle out your arm, because it's like the leads will come, especially if people know who you are. But you have to put some time and attention towards your brand. And that wasn't me. A couple years back, I was looking at my client, go, give me the 25,000. Let's do lead generation, you idiot. And now I am 100% the other way, where I'm like, I won't work with you unless you're willing to dedicate money towards top and middle of funnel, strengthening your brand, building an audience that knows you, likes you, and trusts you, before you're playing this lottery of hoping you come up a lot on that those 18 options. And just then, when you still don't get the calls, it's like, well, it's because they don't know who you are. Right.
Yeah. Wow. No, I mean, first off, there's so much good stuff to go off of there. I'll touch on that last point of branding. I completely agree, and it's funny because I actually had that same perspective. Maybe just a few years ago or so, I was just like, let's get as many leads for our clients as possible.
Yeah.
And that's what you'll see. People that are like, make money online fast, and okay, start an agency and just only leads, and maybe you're doing Facebook ads or Google ads or something, but people only care about leads, and that's the only way you should grow someone's business.
Yeah.
When in reality, kind of what I've realized, and kind of a natural trend, is you can hit about $1 million a year just doing like the general lead generation stuff, like get on the
100%.
directory sites, get
Yep.
Google, local service ads, website. But after $1 million a year or so, you really have to start building up that brand, like you were saying. So can you talk to me about, in 2025, what are some of the top ways to build your brand and get it out there? Like, is it social media? Is it commercials?
Yeah, I think omnipresent is the word that I'm using a lot. And I'm taking it one step further, and it's omnipresent, but hyper focused. Okay. And so here's the strategy that we're doing. Like, we don't do direct mail. We used to do print marketing in our business. I got rid of it in 2021. I bought out a business partner that handled the print. And then when I ran the numbers, I was like, I just don't want to be in the print business. I would just rather find some print partners. And if my clients need help with it, let's do it. But we don't need to do it for them. So today we do not make a penny from direct mail. All right. We have a great direct mail company. They've offered me 2 cents per piece rebate. And I said, apply it to my clients. Just give it to them at the end of the year. They can use it next year, or cut them a check, whatever. Like, I just want to make sure, if we're going to do direct mail in our strategy, that it's done the right way. But here's what I tell you. We won't work with anyone that we don't do video content for. Now, we don't have to do it, but I will give the client a list of, we need to see all these assets. So I want to see 2 or 3 different reviews. Testimonials that are not just like shot just like from someone's phone. And, there's certain content from the phone that can make ads and stuff convert really well. But like, I also think you need to have some professional assets that, again, it shows your brand. It shows, I want to work with these company. And I think there's a level of it that says, if the client of mine feels that they're not, like, we're not Walmart, I mean, we're definitely not the cheapest in our market, well, show that to the client, because they also need to see, based off of your video assets or your branding material, that you're worth the more money that you spend, that your guys walk up and they're shaven and their hair's done the right way, and they're in these nice pressed uniforms and stuff. Like, show the value, build that value into what your price represents. Right. And so video content is huge for us. We do everything off of a funnel process. So we look at top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. Top of funnel, I want to educate people. So I want these ads running 24/7, 365. It's for impressions only. So it's not lead generation. The purpose here is to get eyeballs on these videos and to make the people feel like, whoa, thank you. I don't even know who this company is, but that was some great content, right? And so in the case where, like, if it's here in Dallas or where you are in Chicago and y'all have gotten a bunch of snow lately, it could just be like, hey, you know, Danny here with ABC Heat and Air. I just want to, we've got cold weather coming up in a couple of days. You're going to experience a lot of
Yeah.
snow. I want to give you 3 simple things you can do to make sure that you keep your home warm over this cold front that's coming in. But you come from a place of real value. And like, if they watch it, someone goes, thank you. That was very good. When you come from a place of giving first and the whole value approach, like, it works. It just does, because then they're willing to watch the video, and then you put a retargeting link in it and you go, okay, anybody who watched 50% or more of this video, retarget them this next video. And so the middle of funnel is build trust and credibility. So have a brand story video. All right. So the brand story to us is like a video business card, or I tell people it's your digital billboard that tells everyone who you are, what you do, and the story of why you're in business. And I'm going to tell you, when they're good stories, they work a whole lot better. So you can get the wife and the kids and you interview, those are impactful. And when they're done right and talking about what this community means to us and what our employees mean to us, like, you're telling the story of your culture and the community impact. That video, again, it should be running 7 days a week, 365 days a year, because you're trying to get impressions on it. Like, if I showed you that you had 300,000 people watch the video and it was only targeting your service area, there's no loss there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, well, did I get phone call? Did I get business from it? I don't know right now. It doesn't matter. That's not even what we're trying to do. But does that billboard that you're paying for, is it getting you any phone calls or business? No, it doesn't work that same way. It's because someone rides by that billboard every single day. Hopefully it hits the back part of their brain at some point. And when something does go wrong, they think of you and they call you. You're not going to put some offer on that billboard and they go, oh, let me write that down or take a picture. It doesn't work that way. Top and middle of funnel of your campaign with videos should be the same way. It's just to get eyeballs on what you're doing. And when you can tell stories, and when you can make those stories be impactful or emotional or cause an emotional reaction, they're just going to work better every single time.
Okay.
So
awesome.
Video's big. And I will tell you, we're doing things like geo-targeting right now. And so geo-targeting to us is being able to lock on to a rooftop, right, onto an individual home. And so we're getting focused on, let's say I've got a roofer, all right, a roofer in Houston. He lives in a big master development, and this neighborhood he thought had 4,500 homes in it. It's got over 9,000 homes in it. They had replaced over 200 roofs in that neighborhood.
Wow.
So we're down there with my video team, and super nice guy. I'm like, this is a nice neighborhood, How long you lived here? He's like, 18 years in this neighborhood. He goes, we've done 200 roofs, and we did 3 testimonials from people in that neighborhood. And I'm going, man, why don't you own this neighborhood? You should be the only person anyone in this neighborhood thinks about, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, what kind of ideas you have? And I'm like, first off, I called up my direct mail partner and I said, hey, I need you to tell me how many homes are in this neighborhood. And they came back and they said 9,400 and something. And I was like, okay, well, you were off by only 50%. And I said, all right, let's put a direct mail strategy together. So I got him to go in his front yard. And I said, we're going to create a video and you're going to introduce who you are, how long you've lived here. And they're going to be able to see the sign, the street sign. They're going to see your house, know that it matches with the other houses, and the landscaping is all going to match the neighborhood. And you're going to say, hey, and you're going to call out that neighborhood. And you're going to say, you've lived here 18 years and y'all have replaced over 200 roofs. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a direct mail card that has a picture of you that says, I'm Carlos, scan the QR code to hear my story. And then underneath it, you're going to say, here's 3 of your neighbors and what they said about us as well. And then I said, we're now going to lock on to the 9,400 roofs, geofencing these homes. And the way geofencing works, it's kind of creepy, but I mean, look, it is what it is. they actually pull the parcel number to like through USPS. They get the parcel number to your home, and then they have third-party partnerships where they can actually see connect to the which internet provider that home is on, and so they can connect into the IP address and the MAC address of that home from the parcel number, and then they can attach to any cell phone that is inside of that home. And so the way they do that is because the phones, when your phone, you're connected to a tower somewhere. And so they get the tower will say every person that's on it, not name, it's numbers. And then so the last several digits of that number on the tower is the parcel number at which this phone is at this home. And so once you get that locking, you can then actually target them, let's say on connected TV like Roku and Hulu, and then you can get display ads of any website they go to. And then the same thing with social. So for me, it is omnipresent because I want to hit them using direct mail. I want these 9,400 homes. We're going to hit them every 2 months, a different type of card, right? A big card, a little card, one that's got a magnet on the back with a sports team on it. They're going to get a different look and feel every 2 months. And then when they turn on their TV, if they don't have cable and they're off of connected TV, we're going to be on their commercial. If they go to Wall Street Journal or ESPN website, they're going to see a display ad. And if they go to Instagram or YouTube, they're going to get hit with an ad there. And so it's omnipresent, hyper-focused.
Wow, that is insane. I don't think I've heard anyone else talk about that. So that is a super niche strategy people can implement.
Absolutely. And it's not super cheap, but here's the other thing. Do you want, like, if we only pick a zip code in Houston, all right, the client of mine's in Sugar Land. If we pick a zip code, there may be 1 million people in that one zip code.
Yeah.
So I can't get super focused on who of that 1 million people that I want to go after. And a lot of my clients, let's say here in Dallas, they're like, oh, we do all these zip codes. No, you're willing to drive to those zip codes. But in reality, one zip code in here in Dallas could have 1 million people in it. And that, like, you don't need to have this 75 mile by 75 mile, this crazy huge service area. Nobody wants that because now you've got drive time. You got wear and tear on the truck. You've got technicians all over the damn place, right? You would love to get much tighter, but nobody really like, how are we going to do that? You know, we're just going to canvass a neighborhood and knock on doors over and over and over. I mean, that's kind of like the selling pest control services or selling solar services. Well, that's how they do it. They're canvassing neighborhoods, but they don't think that in HVAC necessarily. You know, how are we going to do that? So yeah, that's what we're rolling out in 2025. And it is, again, it's impressions. We're going to be able to say, we're going to hit this home 4 times a day, either TV, display ads, or social, but we're going to be able to get hyper focused on who these people are. And they're also getting a direct mail card in. And so just keeping this strategy consistent and making sure that your number of people or your neighborhood or whatever is large enough, I think is the future strategy moving forward.
Wow. Yeah, that is so good. And what I really like about the concept overall is that it's essentially niching down, right? So the same way as my agency, and you guys are mostly doing HVAC, I'm mostly doing pest control. That is niching down where, you know, we're not doing marketing for anyone. And I think it goes the same for home services where, you know, there are a ton of pest control companies out there, but the way you niche down is picking one particular area you want to dominate, like you're saying. So ideally, it should be like your neighborhood. And now you're already familiar with all your neighbors, and now you can start in this small little area and get a ton of customers just in this area, which also means now you don't have to travel all around town. You don't have to, you know, do 50 miles to the next state just to get this one customer. You can dominate your very close area. And you know, if you're doing things right, then people should see you. You know, the neighbors are talking. You know, the neighbors are likely friends, and they go to community events together. So I think that's a really good strategy that I've never heard before.
Yeah. So, and we're doing things like we're taking the 3 testimonials, turning those into 30-second. You know, here's who the roofing company is. Here's what one of your neighbors And we're running those as TV ads, not trying to sell a free roof inspection. It's just, hey, we're Sugarland Roofing, and here's what one of your clients in your neighborhood said about us, whatever, right? And then the next thing they may see is another testimonial from another happy customer, but then they may be getting a direct mail offer that's got actual offers to try to get the foot in the door, right? But it's like, you don't always have to shove an offer down people's throat. Let them get to know you. Let them get to understand you and like you and trust you and get a feel for you a little bit. But that takes time that some people aren't willing to do. And I'm just here to tell you that the days of my opinion, the days of just doing lead generation only over and over and over, like, I've seen it firsthand. I've seen it with impeccable results and still going, why we do not have nearly as great results over here, but this business is getting so much more clicks on Google My Business, so much more calls on their PPC. Why is that? And it's because one has a brand that's recognizable and the other one doesn't have a brand at all. I almost think it's those, you have those lead generation companies, you've got like Angie's List and all of them, but they actually got even the scammier ones that will buy leads from other marketing companies. And they're just like this generic plumbingleads.com company, right? And they'll run ads in every market, and it's like a basic landing page, and you can tell it's not a real company. And I'm going like, man, I can only imagine what the cost per acquisition is for something like that. Like, it's got to be really, really high because it looks sketchy. But I also think that's the same thing that happens with a real local company who has no brand recognition at all. It comes off as, even if you make it onto page one of Google, why is someone going to click on you? Because they've never heard of you. They think you may actually be in the wrong state because they're like, well, I've heard of some of these air conditioning companies or seen their trucks. I've never heard of this company, but they're in the first top spot. I just don't think you're going to get some that'll click because you've got a bunch of reviews and you come up in the top spot of Google Maps. But I'm telling you, if you're not doing a little homework before that and putting something in front of them that just lets them see your colors, hear your story, something, your conversions are never going to work. You're not going to grow the way that you think you're going to. And I think
true.
In the end of it, I see a lot of companies that are going from spending let's say 8 to 12% of their top line revenue on marketing, to when their brand gets super strong, they're spending under 5%. Now, 5% on 10 million is still a lot of money, but it sure beats than spending 10 and 12% on $5 million, or as you want to continue to grow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the way I like to think about it, and actually I say the same thing for reviews, but that kind of ties into brand, which brand makes everything easier. It makes you show up more, it makes people convert more, it makes people stay longer. Like brand, and same thing with reviews. Reviews make everything easier. So like push on those two factors. Make sure that you have a great brand and that you're getting it out there as much as possible. So I completely 100%. Agree. But I don't want to keep you too long, Jonathan. I've got two more questions for you. One is kind of, I don't know, almost following that. So that is like one of the key strategies that you're going into for 2025. What else do you see, and what else are you implementing for the rest of 2025?
Well, if TikTok doesn't go away, then we are really trying to strengthen things on TikTok. We are seeing a shift between the younger generation, like probably your age, who is old enough to own a home, but is also grown up in everything technology and social media. They do not care about reviews on Google. So where reviews are important still is really just for ranking purpose, in my opinion. The younger generation is going to platforms like TikTok to make a decision whether they want to do business with this company or not. And sometimes, and I've done some research on it, and I've asked people, how did you come to find this company? And they'll go, well, I did a Google search. There were 3 companies that came up, and then I went to TikTok and looked up all 3 of them. And I made a decision on if this was the company I wanted inside my home with my children based off what I saw on
Dang.
TikTok.
Wow.
So I think we've got to get as much content as we can for our clients. Now, it's not like a lot of my clients aren't going to have a full-time videographer inside their business all the time. Like I would hope most eventually want to get to that place. But at the very least, I think you need to have video content out there that at least says who you are, what is the culture of your business, get some, cool videos of your team doing some funny stuff, cool stuff, get some interviews of them, saying why they like working there. Let me tell you, it'll also help with recruiting, because when people are looking and you've got an offer out there, need new plumbers, $5,000 signing bonus, a lot of people, it's not all about money these days. Like, great, you may pay me a little more, I'll take the signing bonus, but I want to make sure I'm going into a culture where I'm going to be whatever that makes them feel, happy, loved, appreciated, valued, whatever. But a lot of people can get that from the video content that lives and exists, not by what your past customers have said about you on Google reviews, right? So we're continuing to go all in on video. We're going to get hyper focused and omnipresent. And another thing is on our content strategy on SEO. I know that it's my belief that Google needs to know what you do and where you do it. All right. So the most important pages that have ever really existed on the website are your service pages and your location pages. What we're finding is taking that to the next level and creating service plus city pages and getting more focused than just, we do AC repair and then the city's Frisco, Texas. And it's like on the Frisco, Texas page, you're actually going to talk about we do heating and cooling and plumbing and we do all these things in Frisco. Like that's the purpose of that page. But now taking AC repair and writing specific content for Frisco, and then you really want to take it to the next level, like injecting steroids into it, is getting what we're calling on the job videos. And so I've got a YouTube video out there walking through this exact process of how to create an on-the-job video and how to edit it with some free tools on your phone and stuff, because getting guys to actually go to an AC repair job in Frisco, Texas, and they're just creating a little video that says, hey, Jonathan here with ABC Heat and Air, and I just pulled up to a home here in Frisco, Texas, and all we know right now is the homeowner called in and said that they woke up this morning and their home's cold. So let's say it's heating repair and their home's cold. So it's a heating repair call. That's all we know right now. Stick around. We're going to go in, we're going to go through our 5-step process, and then we're going to give the customer some options and we're going to get them up and running. I'll let you know what happens at the end, right? You can shoot that at the beginning and the end and tie it all together if you want, or you can pause but then I tell them, get some B-roll of you working inside of that person's house, right? You can just set your phone up and hit record and just get some things of you messing with their furnace or whatever. And you don't even have to talk in it if you don't want to. And then at the end of the call, whatever ended up happening, whatever the problem was, you come back and go, okay, so just wrapping up our heating repair call. And so here's what happened. I went through our process. And so as they're talking here, now you're patching in that B-roll that you shot while you're in the home. And you say, this is what we found was wrong. Here's what we gave the customer options. Customer went with this. We replaced this, this, and this. And if you can get a little video from the customer at the end going, hey, Mrs. Jones, would you mind just shooting a quick little video? I'm just going to ask you what you would tell future people here in Frisco the experience was like working with us. Could you, if you can get that, that is the cherry on top. And so I feel that if you can create a heating repair page for Frisco, Texas, and you can inject a video of you doing actual heating repair work in Frisco, Texas, you will outrank every single person that is trying to beat you, because that checks off everything you want of EEAT. And I don't know how, AI is never going to be able to take that away from you.
Dude, you are totally speaking my language. This is exactly what I preach to all my clients. Get those real videos. I really wanted to emphasize real, unique videos of you and your team doing the service. Not like what I see in a lot of social profiles of home service companies is it's usually like an AI generated photo with an AI caption. It's like, do you think that people are really going to trust your company? And
Right.
also to that other extent of what you were talking about, do you think Google is going to trust your company? Because people in Google actually work kind of the same way. It's really all about trust. So do you
Yep.
think people or Google are going to trust that? Or, maybe some short form and some long form videos of maybe it's an interview of you, maybe it's you in someone's house. I love that whole kind of demonstration that you were talking about of like the A to Z process of how we work with a client. Like, hey, I'm in the truck right now. Nancy just called me up. We're going to see what's going on at their house. They said the AC's broken. Don't really know what's going on. So they can see that whole process. I think that's really where things are going. And I think that was totally awesome. So last question I wanted to ask you, again, don't want to keep you too long, but this has been super valuable so far. I usually like to ask, what has been one of the biggest lessons you've learned in the past few years?
I think right now, the biggest thing that we've been working on, and I think we've taken this past year to try to master, is our onboarding experience with our clients. And what I had to, really express and stress and try to articulate the best way I could to our client and to our team is this: no matter what, in any situation, when a client comes on board, they're leaving another marketing agency. So we don't, very rarely do we work with someone that's brand new, right? I mean, because they have to have a very big budget and it just typically doesn't work that way. So I'm like, we have to accept and get it through our mindset that they're leaving somewhere else. And we have to almost create, I like to tell people it's like the Apple experience. Like how old are you?
In my 20s.
All right. So you didn't experience this, but older people, we had regular cell phones, right? Like I had a beeper and then I had flip phones, and there was just like, it was cool. You had a phone, you could call someone, but there wasn't games. There was no experience on them. So it was just a phone that was in your pocket, right? Then you fast forward and you see people that are camping out on sidewalks for days to make sure that they get the next iPhone that's being released. Steve Jobs created an experience because it was no longer just like, I think at the cell phone companies, they would just like give you a phone. It was in a box. You just open it and throw all the shit away. You don't care. But that whole experience of those iPhone boxes are super nice. And it's this opening up and this revealing of this awesome device that's here. You have to create an experience. So when I'm talking about our agency and some things that we're working on, is creating an experience from the second they sign their agreement and come on board. Our team, I want my whole team to know why they are leaving their current company, what was bad and wrong, what challenges, what were the frictions and frustrations. How do we make sure we overcome that? Like before we even do the onboarding call, we make sure we acknowledge it, know it, and like, oh, we won't do these things anyway. Great. But we know that it's a soft, sensitive point to the client. But then we create an experience over those next 4 weeks that is so open. It is so much communication. It is so much transparency. It is giving them the entire roadmap of what we're doing and why we're going to do it. And it's just holding them and us accountable every step of the way. And I have happy to say that I've asked the last, say, 25 people that have come on with us. I haven't been on the onboarding calls on purpose because I don't, obviously don't want me to cause any friction between my own team of what they're doing. I'm not on the onboarding, but I've reached out to the owners of these 25 companies and said, hey, I'm just curious, how was that onboarding experience? And man, I've been posting them on social media because the comments come back and they're like, that is the best experience I've ever gone through. I've been with 5 marketing companies, I've been with 3 marketing companies. And so I know we're going to continue to focus on that for 2025, is creating an experience. And at the end of our 4th week is when we do the strategy and planning. And so every client has to go through it. And we've got this really cool spreadsheet where we plug in their actual numbers and we break it down each month. And based off of where their current leads are coming from, or at least where they think they're coming from, we put together this hypothetical forecasted approach of, okay, let's say in a perfect world, we're getting 40% of your leads through Google Maps and SEO and your website, and you're getting 15% from referrals, and you're getting 10% of your leads from LSA, right? So whatever that gap is, it's still a gap, and we got to figure out how to fill that gap in. And then if the cost per acquisition on PPC, which is going to be people that are actually looking for the problem that they're having, a fix to it, if that cost per acquisition is over $400, then you got to imagine that the social media platforms could possibly be even higher cost per acquisition, because that isn't people looking for you. That's you trying to get in front of them. So that's why we create that funnel approach, that we don't even want to show anybody an offer until they're at the bottom of the funnel. And we know that they've actually gone through these other videos and watched a certain percentage of, or we'll never even show you the water heater offer. Because I think that's you throwing a cast net over a bunch of zip codes and spraying and praying and hoping that you get enough people at the right time that magically needed a water heater or a new furnace and said, okay, I'm going to click on this offer. I don't like that approach. We used to do it. And I think Facebook ads in 2016, 17, 18 worked. You could get them but Facebook ads in 2025, you try that approach and you will not have good luck at all. It's just not going to work. You have to create your own audience. Another advice I'll give out there to people: use your database. You've got an extensive list of customers. Now, the ones that you have in contract, if it's pest control or air conditioning, like those are your contract people, you market to them differently. All right. And so a lot of your revenue is going to come from your existing customer people. That's where you can do upsells and cross selling and everything else. But your approach to them should be a little different. So for instance, make sure that the emails that go out to those existing customers aren't always trying to sell them stuff. Inform them, educate them, give them video content from you as the owner on tips and strategies and stuff. Now, same thing can go for your people in your database that aren't actual reoccurring customers or in a contract or whatever, but use concepts like YouTube to send out an email that says, hear from our owner, Danny, on giving these 3 tips of how to keep the roaches out of your house this summer. But then here's the trick, is that when they open up the email, it just needs to be a link to a YouTube video. They click on it. It's a cool little minute video and it's good advice.
Yeah.
Do this and this and this. Great. But here's the trick. Put a retargeting pixel inside of that video, and now your actual database customers who trust you have clicked on that, and now you can retarget them ads on YouTube, right? I mean, you just got to get smart with the way that you're trying to get in front of them. Come from a place of value, and then you can retarget and get business from the people later on.
So awesome. That's such a great strategy there too, of the retargeting tactic of, first off, start with a genuinely valuable video. There's really so much to go off of there. I mean, one thing I wanted to ask kind of as a follow-up question real quick, as an agency owner, I have to know, what are you doing in those first 4 weeks of onboarding?
So we are auditing like week 1. So I'll tell you, here's another cool thing, and has really been impactful to us, is we only do our onboardings during lunchtime. It is a 2-hour to 2.5-hour meeting. The new client fully knows everything we're going to cover and do. We do like an onboarding type sheet when they first come on, that we want them to, basically it's yes or no, like, do you have access to this? Yes or no. We don't want you to provide the passwords or do anything right then. We just want to know ahead of time what you do have and what you have access to and don't, so that we know what we're going to cover and how hard it's going to be to get everything on the actual onboarding call. But we have lunch with the client. And so we send them an Uber Eats link in the morning of their onboarding call. And we let them and anyone that's going to be part of the onboarding agenda to order lunch. And then my executive team, who's going to be on the call, has lunch as well. And we all eat lunch with the client.
Dang.
So we break bread and get to know each other over lunch while we're collecting and getting all this information. And so that's been super cool and allows us to get to know the client on a more personal level. And And so when we get off of that call, we've obtained and have logged into every single thing. We don't just get the passwords to Google and Facebook. We actually get logged in while we're on the call to make sure when we get off of there, there is no, oh, well, we haven't done this because we don't have access to that and your team won't get us to it. So those excuses don't work anymore. And marketing companies are still doing it. We do not leave that call until we have it. The next week, when we come back to meet them on what I call the first real week of the onboarding, like after the onboarding call, week 1 of the 4-week process, we're going over an audit that was done on all of their ads accounts, any ads that they were running, and their Google business profile is done on that call. So we're going over the audit of the GBP and then talking about what we found missing or wrong, their categories, whatever. And then we're laying out the roadmap of what we're going to do the following week, what will be done, while we're going to set it up this way. Mm-hmm. On the ads account, we're going, let's say they were in LSA, Google Ads, and Meta. We're going to audit them and we're going to show them the mistakes we found, the Band-Aids that we've now fixed and put on here, the reason why we're doing it this way, what we're hoping to get out of this, but then setting the stage to say, we are doing this as a temporary fix because we are now setting up and building out your new ads campaigns in the back end. And we're going to run off of a completely new strategy, but we did want to fix the things that are costing you money and not allowing you to get conversions right now. And I think the following week, we're kind of showing them the updated of where the new ads accounts are. Are the ads been improving since we've made the fixes? On the GBP, we're showing them, hey, we took the top competitor that they told us in the market. We've created custom ChatGPT prompts to actually audit their GBP and help us build out the most perfect categories and things for our current client. So we show them that we've got their GBP completely maxed out and optimized to the T. Then our strategy is to say, okay, now that we have your GBP built out the right way, it now is the content strategy that will come from this as far as the website structure moving forward. I believe that Google wants to see the client's website laid out, especially in the home service industry, laid out to mirror the GBP. Mm-hmm. The reason why they give you the primary categories and all those subcategories and things that you can fill out on there, I feel that those need to be pages and content that needs to live on the website. So we then show them on that second week call, here's the new framework of what the content strategy on your website is going to be. So you're going to have your AC repair page, but now we're going to have all of these, I call them subservice pages that are going to be built in and interlinked on this page. And obviously we want to get video content shot on that, at some point. And so then it just continues on from there, right? It's just about building this, not just saying these things are wrong and your old marketing company sucked. Like there's no reason to point fingers. It doesn't matter. They be lost. They look at that experience they just had as a loss at some point anyways. Mm-hmm. And so it just becomes being the expert, showing them what's wrong, fix it. And then how are you going to continue to build on that plan to get it better and better and better? But it can't be, if you're in the market as an agency to just get good results, I just told you at some point earlier in this podcast, firsthand, it's not going, that's not going to let you keep all of your clients because you're getting good results. So you have to at some point align what you're trying to achieve for an actual reason, some kind of KPI that you can actually put a tangible number in place to say, well, we're trying to get our impressions and clicks on SEO to get 10% better, because if we were to get 10% better based off where you get, that's going to approximately X amount of more clicks, which we could project that it could be X amount of more phone calls. And if we only get 30% of those phone calls turn into clients, we're trying to get to a number to say, listen, we need to get 30 or 40 or 50% of your leads from Google Maps or SEO. I don't know if it's obtainable. we got to run the numbers and we got to see. But until we get there, are you okay with paying $400 for every new customer you get? And a lot of times that answer is no. They don't have deep enough top pockets to be able to do it. So we have to kind of walk them back on, well, what are we going to do to get there? But here's the other thing I'll tell you. Make sure you're talking to your clients about lifetime value. You have to get their mind open to, okay, if you're only looking at, I want someone, remember the Google heroin, I want someone to call me because their air conditioner, their furnace isn't working. Okay, well, if your average service ticket is only $400 and it's costing you $400 to get that lead, you're losing money because now all you looked at is the lead cost. Like you got to factor in the technician that went out there and your truck note of that person that's drove that car and insurance and everything else. But when you look at what is the lifetime value of that customer, because you have to sell them a maintenance contract or a club membership. Now you are going to hit them 2 times a year. And the more times you go to their house and you build a relationship with them, it makes everything so much easier to upsell them and cross-sell them if you also do plumbing or whatever, indoor air quality and air scrub or whatever. But you can't just look at, I want a customer one time and I'm going to leave. So what are you doing to create an experience? Are you using text and email to strengthen that relationship and just, say, hey, just wanted to wish you a happy birthday today. Like there's a reason why on these reward programs at restaurants and stuff that they try to get people in to remind you of, hey, come in and get free pizza today on your birthday and whatever. Like it makes people feel good that they're remembered and you're offering them something for free. So what are you doing to create a Steve Jobs experience to make your services as valuable as you think they are? Because a lot of people think they should be able to sell a $20,000 air conditioning equipment, but though they're not spending, they also want to spend less than 1% on their marketing and advertising. It's like those two things don't equal one another. Because if somebody else were to call the next company that's like much smaller or whatever, and they can get the same air conditioning equipment put in their house for $12,000, what are you doing making yours $8,000 more expensive? What are you doing to build that perceived value into your pricing?
That is so awesome, man. Yeah. And it's especially relevant to pest control, actually, because that is a recurring service. It's, most people might see that they're paying like $50 to $100 per lead. And they're like, well, that's like how much the service costs, or at least the first service. I'm like, dude, if you go about it the right way, that client is actually worth a few $1,000s, maybe Absolutely. Even more than that. 100%. Especially like you were saying, if you're upselling or cross-selling the different things. So I think that's something definitely to note as well. And I like the point that you made.
A lot of people got to get more comfortable. And look, my really smart clients get it. And here's an example I'll give. They'll go, well, I'm willing to basically almost give away the club membership, right? So they'll do things like their trip fee that they tell any client when they go, hey, how much is it for someone to come out and tell me what's wrong with my system? Well, it's $89 for us to come out. Or we have a club membership that's $99. And if you want to get signed up for that, we'll actually come out, diagnose your system, and it's only $10 more. We'll do the first cleaning today. And if anything wrong with your system to get it up and running, you get 10% off. So it's a no-brainer because you're going to save money, right? And I ask clients, why are you willing to do that? Like, because you're losing money. $99 to come out twice a year. In no world are you making money on that because you've got the hourly rate of that technician to go out twice. You've got the wear and tear on the truck and van. You've got the truck note, insurance. So you're not, and they go, well, I can either obtain them and make them my customer where I get to touch their system twice a year and build a relationship with them. Or down the road, I'm going to have to do some low cost tune-up offer for $20 or $30 to bring, I'm going to have to rebuy them again in the future. So I better turn them into my customer now and get lifetime value out of them, or rebuy them down the road. The choice is mine. I'm like, well, you get it. And my clients over here don't get it at all because they still want to try to sell a $500 maintenance contract. And I try to walk my clients through it. And I go, listen, I can be one of your customers. I can put myself in those shoes and go, okay, I woke up today, my home was cold. I didn't want my furnace to be out. I didn't want to have
Mm-hmm.
this problem. I'm already struggling financially.
Mm-hmm.
So when I call you and you go, oh, yes, it's $90 for us to come out today. Okay, great. You come out and then you go, okay, here's the things we found wrong. It's going to be $400 to get up and run. Okay. All right. Here's my card. And they go, well, we also have a maintenance contract and it's $300 for the first system. And you've got three. I didn't want to pay $400. So at what point you've got to be the best salesman ever to then be able to sell some expensive contract to get me on. I don't care if you break it down monthly. I don't want to pay an extra $30 a month or whatever. But if you do it cheap and affordable and willing to take a loss on the front end, it will 100% come back to you in the lifetime value of that customer, especially if your team's doing it the right way and building that relationship every time you go to that house to spray that house or whatever. And you're doing things the right way and you've got a solid process, you will continue to make more and more money from that customer until they die or move away.
Yeah, 100%. And establishing that goodwill at the beginning. So that way that they trust you basically for the rest of their life. So
100%.
So awesome. Really the main point that I've gotten from the past 20 or 30 minutes is that you have to focus on customer experience, whether it's your own business as an agency or helping your clients see that. Or if you're a home service local business owner, knowing that it's all about your customer experience and how they're feeling about it. Like walk yourself through their shoes, see, how would they feel about this? What is the whole cycle of them going from broken furnace to then actually giving you money? So I love all of that, such amazing points. I think this is a really good podcast. And could you let people know where to find you on social media and how to learn more about your services?
Yeah. So, I'm under Jonathan is Marketing is pretty much my handle on Instagram and TikTok. I'm all over. Facebook is the main one. I'm old, right? So Facebook's the main one where I communicate with a lot of people. Look up the podcast, Home Service Hustle. We're on what's the green one? Spotify. Yeah, because I don't listen to Spotify because I'm a Amazon Music guy. So Spotify and on Apple. And and our new website, our new domain, by the time this probably airs, because are we go live here or you?
No, it'll go out in about a month or so.
Yeah. So by the time that comes out, we'll be under TopServe Digital. So topservedigital.com. Yeah. The podcast, I try to bring people on that from all walks of life. We talk about marketing, money, and mindset. So I have just, coaches and I want to talk about how to lose weight and how to get the right mindset, financial people. Like I just want people that can help any of my clients in any way possible. And here's what I'll tell you is when we started focusing on our onboarding, it was because I will tell you, there's a study that was done. I want to say it was done at Harvard, and it said that when it came to subscriptions, now I'm not in a subscription model. Typically it's like a year contract of things, right? But it said when it's time to renew a subscription, that the people's brain, when it wasn't 100% yes or no for their brain went back to how did the onboarding go? And so that got me thinking, and it's what I'm educating my clients on. That first impression is so important. So I want my clients to see our onboarding and go, what is our company doing when our technicians, like when they first speak to someone on the call, to the technician going their home to leaving, what was that experience like? And if I can create that experience and I get my clients thinking like, well, we better look into because that's what creates value. That's what allows you to charge more money for your services, because you are being a marketing partner to them and not a marketing company or marketing agency. You are formulating a plan of here's where you are, here's where we're going to get to, and here's how we're going to get there as a team. And if you can continuously or more times than not do that each quarter or each month, each quarter, each year, then you should retain that client for years to come.
Yeah. No,
Right?
that's an awesome lesson. Awesome lesson too is that first impression is everything. And that even starts digitally too, or potentially that could be offline. But when people see that initial social post, like usually people kind of unconsciously think of that first experience, and that not even the first experience of you, of like the actual service, but seeing you. Like if they see an amazing video and then they get the amazing service and the service is amazing every time, like, dude, they're going to stay with you for life because
Right.
so few people do that. And I think that's something to kind of top that off, is that so few businesses are actually willing to do what it takes to be great. So if you are one of the few that can, you will succeed 100%.
100%.
Awesome, man. Well, cool. I think that was an awesome podcast. I really appreciate your time. Almost went 2 hours here. And yeah, so cool. Anything else you'd like to plug or mention?
No, man, I enjoyed it. I appreciate it.
Of course, brother. All right, cool. Well, it was great talking to you, and we'll definitely stay in touch. All right, yeah. Bye, man.